Here at CBR, we're always looking forward to the latest superhero movies. But in the wake of Avengers Infinity War, we're more excited than ever to find out what is going to happen next in the MCU. Today, we're going to be talking about our predictions for Spider-Man Far From Home, and how it'll follow up Avengers 4. Before we begin, subscribe to CBR and ring that bell to join our notification squad so you never miss a video. Without further ado, here's what we know about Spider-Man Far From Home, and how it'll follow up to Avengers 4. When we first heard we were getting a third actor playing Spider-Man on the big screen, we were skeptical to say the least. With so many awesome heroes out there in the comic books, why was Spider-Man getting yet another reboot instead of a new character being introduced? But Spider-Man is one of the most popular characters of all time, and we were willing to give Tom Holland's version a chance. We were glad we did because his time in the MCU has been fantastic so far. We first spotted Tom Holland's Spider-Man in the movie Captain America: Civil War. It was just enough for a few laughs and to get us excited for the movie Spider-Man Homecoming. Of course, nobody can forget his appearance in Avengers Infinity War, and after that whole being turned into dust thing clears up, we look forward to seeing him in Spider-Man Far From Home. Naturally, Tom Holland will be back as the Amazing Spider-Man along with Marissa Tomei as May Parker. Zendaya will be portraying Michelle MJ Jones, Jacob Batalon will play Peter's best friend Ned, and Tony Revolori will play the role of Eugene Flash Thompson. And some familiar faces from S.H.I.E.L.D. Samuel L. Jackson will be appearing as the inimitable Nick Fury, and Kobe Smulders will be playing the role of S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Maria Hill. Although we didn't catch these two in Spider-Man Homecoming, we did see them in a post-credits scene in Avengers Infinity War. And then we didn't see them. Although we don't know exactly what is going to go down in the fourth Avengers movie, it will undoubtedly be very big. In addition to dealing with the fallout, Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige has given us some information about what we can expect. He says that despite everything that's happened, Peter Parker is trying to live a relatively normal life. Despite all of his superhero antics and web-slinging, he's the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man after all. One of the aspects of his character that resonates with fans is how much of a normal person he is. Feige also revealed that despite his quest for normalcy, Spider-Man is going to be doing a ton of traveling in this movie. Fans can expect to see scenes from London and surrounding parts in the United Kingdom. He'll of course still have bad guys to fight. We've heard that actor Jake Gyllenhaal will be playing the role of Mysterio, a character who is very familiar to fans of the comic book. In the initial Spider-Man movies directed by Sam Raimi, actor Bruce Campbell made many cameos, but this went way beyond some simple fan service. It was eventually going to be revealed that Bruce Campbell had been Mysterio the entire time, but as we all know, the fourth Spider-Man movie ended up getting canceled, so this never became a thing. Now, audiences are finally going to get a chance to see this villain on the big screen. Mysterio is one of Spider-Man's greatest enemies in the comic books, and it's easy to see why he's such a fan favorite. Instead of simply brawling with his enemy, Mysterio prefers to torment Spidey using psychological and chemical means. This could make for an extremely interesting showdown. Mysterio's alter ego is Quentin Beck, a special effects artist who used his skills for evil. Comic book fans will also remember that Mysterio was one of the original members of the Sinister Six. This group of evildoers were brought together by the insidious Dr. Octopus in order to take down Spider-Man once and for all. For so long, we've been waiting to see them all appear in a movie together. Besides Dr. Octopus and Mysterio, the group also included Electro, Kraven the Hunter, Sandman, and Vulture. We also know Spider-Man Far From Home will see Michael Keaton reprising his role as Vulture. This has led many fans to excitedly wonder if Spider-Man will wind up going head-to-head with the Sinister Six. In one clip, we even saw Spidey being blasted by a huge wave of water, causing fans to wonder if villain Hydro Man may be making an appearance. He was once part of the expanded group known as the Sinister 12, but maybe the studio decided to put him in the original group for this movie. In addition to the clip, there were many rumors that early storyboards contained drawings of the villain. If Vulture, Mysterio, and Hydro Man are all showing up in this movie, it doesn't seem like a far stretch to think we may get to see the Sinister Six. After all, at this point, we'd be halfway there. Still, some fans are apprehensive about the idea of the Sinister Six. After all, the number of antagonists had gotten out of hand in previous versions of Spider-Man movies, and we finally got a fresh start with Tom Holland's Spider-Man. There's another character closely associated with Spider-Man that fans are also eager to see, and that is the notorious Venom. Of course, we all know we're finally getting a Venom movie, but is there a chance of a crossover appearance between Venom and Spider-Man? Unfortunately, Fortunately for fans, it's been confirmed that despite being a Marvel character, Venom doesn't exist within the MCU. This has already caused a great deal of confusion for fans who wonder how Venom is going to come to be without the involvement of Spider-Man. But there have also been rumors that Venom will enter the MCU eventually, provided his standalone movie is a hit. Tom Holland himself said he would love to have a chance to face off against Venom at some point in time. Could enough happen after Avengers 4 to make it possible that Venom will show up in Spider-Man Far From Home? It's hard to say, but it's definitely something fans would love to see. Since it seems like Spider-Man is going to be well acquainted with S.H.I.E.L.D. by the time this movie comes out, and he's going to be collecting some passport stamps, we believe this may have something to do with what happened to Peter Parker's parents. If you consider yourself a Spider-Man fan and you're not entirely sure what happened to Peter Parker's parents, that's okay. They're almost never mentioned, even in the comic books. The character of Spider-Man was introduced into the comic book world back in 1962, and it took years before he found out why Peter Parker was living with his Uncle Ben and Aunt May. It wasn't until the Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 5 that we got any answer at all, and that came out in 1968, 6 years after we first met Peter Parker. We knew his parents were deceased, and we saw them occasionally in flashbacks and photos, but we didn't know what happened to them. Their names are Richard and Mary Parker, and they're two of the least mentioned characters in all of Marvel. Although they've long since passed away, you'd think they would get more than a passing mention every few years. After all, everyone knows what happened to Batman's parents. Another reason we wanted to know more about Peter's parents is because it may explain some things about him. Sure, he's a normal teen, but one who's ambitious, bordering on neurotic at times. He absolutely tortures himself worrying about what is right and what isn't, and this is pretty uncommon. It made us wonder what kind of people his parents were and whether or not their lives influenced Peter's outlook on life. Eventually, we find out they were a pair of secret agents who were on an undercover mission when they were destroyed by Red Skull, who sabotaged their plane. After finding out that minimal information, it was a long time before we learned anything new about Richard and Mary Parker. It turns out that this couple weren't just any secret agents, but they were actually working for S.H.I.E.L.D. Not only that, but prior to becoming an agent, Richard Parker was a Special Forces captain who was recruited by none other than Nick Fury himself. Mary Parker was a member of the CIA who met and fell in love with Richard before eventually joining up with S.H.I.E.L.D. Peter finding out the truth about his parents in Spider-Man Far From Home would make a lot of sense. Naturally, the inclusion of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents would be easily explained, since they hold the key to finding out about Richard and Mary. It's possible that some of Peter Parker's excursions outside of the country may also be explained by tracking down information on his parents. This would also fill in a lot of blanks for Marvel movie fans. In The Amazing Spider-Man, we just heard Peter's parents perished in a plane crash. In The Amazing Spider-Man 2, we again learned that they were in an accident, but Aunt May revealed she was told that they were trying to sell government weapons illegally. Peter discovered that there was much more to that story, but it really wasn't elaborated on and didn't shed any more light on who Richard and Mary really were, and what happened to them. This is information that most moviegoers don't even know they're missing out on, and it would be great to see it resolved in Spider-Man Far From Home. We also have a few hints courtesy of director John Watts. He directed Spider-Man Homecoming and has returned to direct Spider-Man Far From Home as well. We all love a good time skip, but the timing of this movie has us quite intrigued. According to Watts, Spider-Man Far From Home will start out only a few minutes after the conclusion of Avengers 4. That is such a short period of time, it's hard to fathom. After all, we know that Peter Parker originally heads to Europe on a field trip, and it's hard to imagine doing so in the serious aftermath of an Avengers adventure. But for a long time, we've guessed the plot of Avengers 4 will have something to do with time travel, so the end of that movie could pretty much be anywhere and at any time. After all, Peter Parker must find his way back somehow, or there wouldn't be another Spider-Man movie. Needless to say, in order to get Peter Parker back after the events of Avengers Infinity War, there's going to have to be some time travel, a massive burst of power, or some alternate dimension shenanigans going on. One popular plotline in the comic books is that of the Spider-Verse. It's a comic book which came out in 2014 and tells the story of alternate versions of Spider-Man. Some people wonder if the Spider-Verse could be a convenient way of getting around the whole Spider-Man faded to dust thing. Well, the Spider-Verse is quite popular, and we do have a lot of questions about how Avengers 4 will shake out. The Spider-Verse seems like way too big of an undertaking for this particular movie. After all, packing the Sinister Six into a single film may get overwhelming, let alone multiple versions of Spider-Man himself. After 2 goes at the franchise already, hopefully Marvel has gotten the kinks out and is ready to make this version of Spider-Man the very best yet. They're definitely off to a strong start with Spider-Man Homecoming. In Spider-Man Far From Home, we look forward to seeing Peter Parker discover more about his origins. films. This includes finally finding out what happened to his parents in the MCU. We also can't wait to see him facing off against the great Mysterio, whether or not he's joined by the rest of the members of the Sinister Six. The inclusion of Venom or the Spider-Verse would undoubtedly be awesome, but we aren't gonna hold our breath while we wait to see if that'll be included. And there you have it. What are your predictions for the upcoming Spider-Man Far From Home movie? Do you think it'll follow up Avengers 4? Let us know in the comments section below, and don't forget to subscribe to CBR for more videos just like this one. Thanks for watching.